Today's going to be awesome because we are going to get to answer one of those very interesting and important questions in history. You remember our important and interesting questions in history?
Another important question that I think is very interesting. America 500 years ago, there were no white people, or black people either, for that matter. America now, buku white people, buku black people, what's the deal? And even more importantly, why? Why did these people cross the ocean to come to America?
We're actually going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how white people came to live in America because white people don't actually come from America. They come from Europe, or their ancestors did. In the beginning, the only people in America were the Native Americans. So the history of America started with the Native Americans. Actually, when we look at our timeline, this is the present day. This is our date today. If we go back in time, 500 years ago, this is when the Europeans came. And it may sound like that was a long time ago, but for the whole 9,000 years before that, all of this on the timeline, there was no one in America but the Native Americans. So before we get to the arrival of the Europeans, the white people, we have to talk about the Native Americans. In fact, we don't really get to talk about the Native Americans much. I'm going to have to go fast because we got to talk about those Europeans. So here's our first map. The reason I tell you this is because it gives us some information about the differences between Native Americans. Now, the people who lived in the Northeast had logs to build their homes out of, whereas the people in the Southwest lived in deserts and they didn't have those logs. So they built their homes out of clay. But there were more differences too. They also had many different languages. In Mexico, a lot of the Mayans even had a written language. But it doesn't stop there. When you see Native Americans, you see pictures of people that almost look like cavemen running around chasing animals. But they were a lot more complex than that. In fact, before the Europeans ever got here, they had built their own cities. These are the native cities of North America. We have Teotihuacan. That was one of the biggest cities in the world at the time of Jesus. The Puebloans, oh my gosh, the Puebloans, they built their cities inside of cliffs. Cliff cities? Are you kidding? That's awesome. And the Mississippian people. The Mississippian people built large mounds and walls and all these villages and huts. In fact, these are not people running around with sticks chasing animals. These people are very complex. In fact, they must be really good farmers to be able to feed this many people in one place. But we don't really talk much about Native Americans. Why do you think that is? Well, let's look at this graph of some of the leaders in our government. This color means white, black, yellow is Hispanic, and the green is Asian. Now notice that almost all of the people in the House of Representatives and the Senate, our lawmakers, are white. And maybe they forget that the Native Americans are very important to our history. They were the only ones here for over 9,000 years. So maybe that has something to do with why we don't talk about Native Americans as much. A lot of the people who make decisions maybe don't think it's as important or don't realize how important it is. So we went from a time when only Native Americans were in America to where there's many fewer Native Americans, and also there's many more people. There's white people and black people. Well, it all started with Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus came to America and opened up the doors for so many other Europeans to come settle here. And today we're going to be talking about the European explorers like Christopher Columbus. When I say European explorers, I mean people who came from Europe and set sail on the ocean to go discover new places. Now, why would they leave home? What would make a person leave their home and family and risk it all in the open ocean? Well, the Europeans left their homelands in the 1400s for three main reasons. God. They wanted to spread the Christian religion and expand their Christian kingdoms. All right, they were Christians and they wanted to tell people about Jesus and build more churches. Glory. They wanted to be famous and admired. Christopher Columbus wanted very much to be famous. And gold. They thought they could get wicked rich by trading with China. And in fact, this is the main reason they left their homes. Europeans loved trading in China and India for spices. But the problem is it was a long trip and you had to do it by camel or horse or on your own 2 feet. There were no cars, no railroads or airplanes. None of those had been invented. So on this long trip, there would also be all these people, and they want to charge you as you go. Oh, you want to pass? You need a little money. You want to trade here? You need a little money. So between the long journey and the expensive costs, people didn't really want to travel this way. And so the Europeans thought, what if we went this way around the world and got to China and India? The only problem is they didn't know that North and South America were in the way. They had never been there before. So let's review. Why do people risk it all on the open ocean? God, glory, and gold. And remember that gold means that they're going to get rich by trading in Asia. Just like this guy. He set sail looking for riches to bring back to the king and queen of Spain. Is this an example of God, glory, or gold? Gold. He's there about the money. He wants those riches. And this guy, Ferdinand Magellan, he searched for a passage to the Pacific Ocean because he wanted his crew to be the first to circumnavigate the world. God, glory, or gold? Well, I see that he wants to be the first. He's looking for glory. So let's take a look at some of the important European explorers, okay? And one thing I want to point out is I'm going to tell you that some of them were Spanish, and some of them were French, and some of them were British. Look, they're all Europeans. France, Spain, and Britain, those are all just different countries in Europe, okay? So don't let that confuse you. But it is important because they weren't all on the same side. They were actually competing for each other, and they were actually kind of bumping elbows. Me first, me first. So that's important too. Now, Christopher Columbus was the first. Remember, he's trying to go around the world to Asia, but he doesn't get there because, thump, he hits America. Now, he was sailing for Spain, and he was trying to find that westward route to the east. And his accomplishment was that he started the European conquest of the Americas. The conquest means the Europeans conquered the Americas. They came and they took it over. And this is a picture of Columbus's men returning to Spain, showing what they found. Now, you need to get this bold information on your card. You don't need the non-bold information. You also need what country he sailed for. On the back of your card, now make sure you find Christopher Columbus. On the back of your card, I want you to find the map that's labeled Christopher Columbus. I want you to turn it on its side. And we're going to draw the route that he took, okay? Remember that Christopher Columbus left Europe and sailed to these islands here. So on our map, we're going to show Christopher Columbus leaving Spain and Europe. I'm going to Asia. Bang. Hits right into North America. Okay? You know, Christopher Columbus, he didn't actually get to Asia. He got to North America. You know, he never really knew that. He thought he was in Asia. That's why he called the people there Indians, because he thought he was in India. Ferdinand Magellan, he sailed for Spain. His goal was to find a westward route to the Spice Islands. Those are the islands over in Asia where they can do that trading. Accomplishment, he was the first to sail around the world. So he went south of South America, across the Pacific Ocean, around the world, over here to these islands, and then down under Africa. But actually, he didn't make it all the way. Maybe he wasn't the first to sail around the world. His men were. He actually died in a battle here in the Philippines. So make sure on your map that you have your information, and make sure to turn it over. We're not in East America and West America. We're in North America and South America. And draw the trail of Ferdinand Magellan. Under South America, up and around to Asia, through the islands, under Africa, and back to Europe, going all the way around the world. And why don't you actually add a little skull and crossbones where he died in the Philippines. Bummer. Okay. This is Ferdinand Magellan. We've talked about 2 explorers. You're going to have another video where you talk about the last couple explorers. All right. See you in just a second, actually.